Hello there, FME users. Welcome to this, our next presentation on what's new and great in FME 2023. With me today, I've got two colleagues. I've got Aidan Wessel, or Vessel, I'm not sure how we pronounce it, and Dave Campanus.
Hello.
So, just to introduce, I mean, you may have met these folks before, but Dave, you must have started not long after I did at SAFE, so you must have been there. Had been here over 15 years now, I would think.
18 years this year.
18, yeah, wow. Yep, that's about right, I guess. And which team are you in now? Because you're sort of a special part of the experts team.
Yeah, the name bounces around, but basically, I think applications expert or strategic supporter. Basically, we do a more in-depth support than the standard support group.
Okay.
Like bigger projects and that sort of thing.
Okay, so you would sort of advise the bigger clients on what setup and how to do things, I guess.
Yeah, and also working with sort of partners like Esri and such.
Right. Okay, gotcha. And Aidan, how long have you been at SAFE?
Just over 5 years now, full
5
time.
years.
I did some co-op before that, but I'm definitely a brand new safer compared to you guys.
No, I think 5 years. You've definitely been. You're definitely a safer by now for sure. And which team are you on, by the way?
So I'm on the CMD team, which stands for CAD modeling and databases.
Of course.
And yeah, we handle that stuff.
And you also handle the coordinate systems as well, I believe, reprojection.
We do, but that is actively being transferred from us, actually, to the geometry team.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, good luck. Excuse me. Good luck to the geometry team then, because that's a pretty tough, pretty tough gig to land. So, well, great. Well, today we're going to look at the Revit, Revit Writer in particular, but I guess Revit in general, about what we've got new for FME 2023. And I think the big thing is writing. So, Aidan, do you want to actually just describe first what is new in 23 for Revit format?
So for the Revit format in general, we've got a bunch of reader improvements, as we always do. Got better parameter support. I think we have the ability to read area views, or maybe that's .1. But yeah, big things coming for reading, and of course, writing is brand new for 23.0, and that's the demo that we're going to kind of show off today.
Fantastic. So perhaps before we get into this, what did the writing used to look like? Because I think we had a method, but it wasn't direct like this. Is that right?
Yeah, we had a very roundabout way of writing, just as we did for reading. And of course, when you come out with a Revit reader, the first question on everybody's mind is, when are you going to come out with a Revit writer? So finally, phase one has been complete, and here it is.
The answer is now. Well, great. Let's take it away and let's see what we've got.
Sure. So I've got a bit of a simple demo compared to Dave's that's coming up, just to kind of demo how the writer works and what the intended functionality is. So as a brief overview, we've got phase one of the Revit writer, which can write any surfaces you give to it as generic models. So generic models are things in Revit that Revit itself doesn't know about, lets you draw it yourself. So they're not as useful as fully fledged elements, but we think they're going to be useful for a lot of users, and we're looking to add more support over time. Some things to note, though: for really big geometries, writing can take a while, similar to how reading a huge Revit file can take a while. And Revit is pretty sensitive about geometry constraints, so your surfaces need to be closed. So sometimes the geometry validator can totally help you out when you're writing to Revit. So you can write colors to these generic models that we're sending out. And we can also write built-in parameters. So anything that isn't defined by a user, like a family, a shared, or a project parameter, we can write. There are some caveats there, but generically, the writer expects these attributes in the same form that the reader produces them. So the parameter set dot parameter name. And you can use a template file as a starting point, similar to a DGNC file, or an ACAD template file. So I've got a really simple workspace here that just kind of round trips one of the sample files that ship with Revit, but I can show this off. So if we open up our writer parameters, you can see really the only interesting thing here is the template file. For this one, I've got a completely bare template file that has nothing inside it, not even any views set up. So we're going to have to do that when we look at the output. Other thing to note is on the reader side here, we have added a new parameter, read rich parameter attributes. So some built-in parameters, if we try to match them based on the name, we get ambiguity because could be multiple parameters in Revit that have the same name. So what our read rich parameter attributes parameter will do is it will, alongside every attribute, it will tell you exactly what the ID of that parameter is in Revit, which clears up all that ambiguity and lets us write no problem. So why don't I start this workspace off?
Yeah, love it. I mean, it looks, well, I was going to say it looks pretty straightforward, but I'm not sure anything is totally straightforward with these formats.
When it comes to BIM, there's a ton of complexity, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I've never really got into Revit in general, because it's a lot of complexity. And if I learn something, I really want to learn it. I guess I don't have all the time to do that. So
fair enough.
Okay. So it's
all right.
Finished. Excellent.
Yep, we're all done. So here is Revit. I'm hoping you guys can see that. So this is the original file that we started with. It is the RST basic sample project that ships with Revit. And let me open the thing that we just wrote. So we're going to get this foreign file warning because this file is created with FME and not with Revit. That's totally expected and no problem. And we can go ahead and open. And as you can see, there is no view that is 3D that can nicely display our models because I used a completely blank template file. So we can go to view and hit the 3D view, which will make a 3D view for us. And if we change to shaded, we can see there's our file. The colors are a little bit different because we are not bringing the textures with us. We're just bringing the colors. But other than that, like if I click on this wall, you can see all these are built-in parameters that have been filled in by FME.
Fantastic.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I had for my demo. Just kind of outlining the basic functionality here.
I like simple demos, especially with something like this. So yeah, that's superb.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think I've got any questions about that. If anybody out there watching has got any questions, please do let us know. Just type them into the chat window, and we'll do our best to answer them. But Dave, you've got a demo as well, I believe.
Yeah, I was looking for more of a sort of practical aspect, but I'm not a Power Revit user. So I kind of hunted and relied on some of our users. And more importantly, a user from a company called HOK did a presentation. Let me just share my screen here.
I will stop.
And there we go.
Excellent.
Yep. Okay, there we are. So this is a quick presentation that HOK did. They're big Revit users. What they were doing was they were grabbing site models from OpenStreetMap. And let me just go into that here. So what they do is they set up a FME server, now FME Flow application, where you would fill in some information and you would draw a site context boundary where you draw the boundary using OpenStreetMaps around the area where you can place your new project. Then it would go through and just showing you some of the tools it uses here. But more importantly, it would extract that OpenStreetMap model. It would grab the building outlines and elevate them based on the building height information and write that out to a DWG file that could then be referenced into Revit. So I figured I'd take this and go a little bit further with it and see what happens if we take that sort of information and go directly into Revit with it without going through DWG. So let's see. I have a workspace here. It's basically based on their workspace. It grabs the information from the OpenStreetMap and does a little analysis on it and elevates the data. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's a little bit more complex than the other one you saw. So this is, again, once you publish it up to FME Flow, you make it into a workspace app. So this one's a little bit different from the one they used. We have to supply a Revit template file, units of measure. I also supply a Revit base point. So this site, Revit has kind of a local coordinate system in it, in that it doesn't support like the mapping coordinate systems like UTM or state plane or anything. It only sort of support a local coordinate system. So you kind of have to give it a base point at which to center this local coordinate system. So that's what the base point is here. And the base point can be in lat long, it can be in UTM, it can be in state plane. We'll give you a choice of the coordinate system down here. And also you pick the units of measure. These are the units of measure that are going to be based on your template file. What are you going to be using within Revit itself? In a lot of cases, it's inches or millimeters. And finally, the OpenStreetMap data buildings come with a lot of information. Some of them actually have the building height, which is cool. Some of them don't have that, but they got the number of stories, which is also useful. And some of them got nothing. So it's hard to make a model out of nothing. So I just have a section here where you can sort of put a default building height for buildings that don't have any height information. And you, again, like in the other one you see, you can draw the context boundary. So if we zoom in.
Is it doing something right now, or because I'm still seeing the slide?
Yes, you are. And why is that? Hang on, let me share the screen again. My apologies, folks.
Hey, no worries. It's not like we haven't had our own issues from time to time.
Yeah, launched into my spiel and nobody can see it. Let's try the entire screen. That might look better.
There we go. I can see a map.
Yes. Now we're want to see. Okay. Yeah, let me just back up a bit. So the the whole interface I just described, this is what it looks like.
I thought you were describing it from that slide, so that's why I didn't say anything before. But
sorry, folks. But yeah, these are the various things I described here in great detail while seeing a completely different picture. But anywho, so we can bring up this cool little menu to describe the site context and give you the whole world. But we're going to zoom in. I've got this pre-drawn just to give me a place to zoom in too. But you can draw anything you want really. So I've just grabbed a couple of blocks of downtown Vancouver. That's going to be my site.
Okay.
Okay, and I've picked a UTM point within that site within the area actually where there's an empty lot. So we would normally hit OK. We would run this. You would get this anyway. It's going to run for us. We will get a download link eventually. And that'll give us a Revit file. And this is what the Revit file will look like. So again, there's no 3D view, but I just want to look at the site first. So if we click on the site, you can see that is our base point. And that would be like the base point of your model. It's a nice empty lot here. You can build another building. And if we want to see what this looks like in 3D, and again, we go to view, 3D view, it gives us a 3D, put the nice little shading on it. And I've got different colors here, and these different colors, I just picked different colors to represent the way I modeled it. So the green means I got a building height, or that's a reliable height indicator. The orangey, it's supposed to be orange. Orangey color here means I'm just working off the number of stories. So I've given a rough 4 meter per story elevation, so it might not be quite there. And then these are supposed to be red, but the pinks are essentially, that's the default. We don't know. So take it, use it at your own risk sort of thing.
Yeah.
But this gives you kind of just a context of the buildings around sort of where to start from. And that's about as far as I've gotten so far. I'm not sure how to bring in the highways and stuff. I'll figure that out down the road. But that's pretty much it for my demo. Hopefully this is kind of a useful thing, and I'm happy to share the workspace with anyone who asks.
Fantastic. So they used to have a project that just wrote that to DWG, and now we're getting it
In
in
Revit
Revit
itself.
directly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Um, yeah, I'm not sure I've got any questions about that, to be honest. The only comment we've got so far in the chat was, "Hey, there's some nice hotels in that area. I'm looking forward to the next FME UC." So,
Yes, there are. But I think the next UC is in Bonn, Germany. So
well, yeah, that's true. So maybe we should have done Bond, but yeah. So originally, I think Aidan, you mentioned about templates, and just to help me out in case and anybody else who doesn't really know. So you said the template is like a DGN seed file, which I know a bit more about. So it has like a units and an extent and different views. Is that right?
Yeah, it has essentially everything that has been set up in the file already. So it's got its coordinate system and units, and
Okay.
any pre-existing elements. You can create or you can append new things to that file. Like that file is your starting point for what you write to.
Okay. And that's what I was wondering. I was going to ask if somebody had an existing template file and they used FME to write into it, would it append to what was in there? If something, it would. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So those features you've got there in that display, Dave, are they solid or are they a wireframe or just is it just how?
they go in as a wireframe mesh.
Okay, a wireframe mesh. Okay.
Yeah. And you as you can see, you can display colors. I've thrown a bit of alpha in there just so you can see through the buildings a bit,
Hmm.
or you can have them solid. It's your choice. Um, yeah, we support color. I don't believe they support image textures. Do we, Aidan?
Right. That was going to be my next question. If
Yeah.
textures are part of this.
But for something like a site context, this is fine because really you're just more interested in what's around,
For sure.
and color coded in a way helps you you know give you an idea what you're looking at more like better than say a textured image would.
Okay, that's cool. So I think Aidan, you said that there's going to be more fixes and updates and changes in the future. Can you give us an outline of those without promising anything definite?
Yeah, maybe I'll give the safe harbor warning that don't base any development decisions based on what I'm saying. But we're currently
Absolutely.
prototyping some newer things for the Revit writer, writing any parameter, not just a built-in parameter, particularly updating those rather than creating them for like a next phase is something we're looking at. We're also looking into placing instances of families from like a point, which I think will be very useful. Along the way, loading new families from like a directory into your Revit file and being able to place instances of those, we think would be super useful for users. And of course, setting the parameters on the instances as you place them. Those are the big two coming up for sure. Of course, we're open to any and all feedback from people. Like if you really want to see something, then please let me know, and
Yeah.
we'll think about it.
Absolutely. And if anybody's watching this after the event as a video, then just I'm sure there's a comment section somewhere. Just post a comment there, or let us know via the support team, and we can always pass that information on to Aidan and the development teams. And as well, if you want, look on the community.safe.com, and you will find a tutorial or at least an article talking about how to do writing, Revit writing in FME form. So if you like what you saw today and want to give it a try, community.safe.com is the link to go to. Just type Revit writer into the search, and it will come up with a quick tutorial about reading from a template, writing out to the project file, and setting parameters and so on. So, yeah, there's plenty of resources about if you need. Yeah, anything else you can think of, gentlemen, to mention about any of this? No, we're pretty good then, I guess. Well, then thanks for taking the time today out of your day to talk about this and to demo things for us. It's much appreciated by the community, I know, and we get a lot of views on these videos afterwards. So yeah, thanks Dave, thanks Aidan, and hopefully we'll see you again in the not too distant future with some more updates to this. And to anybody else who's been watching live, thank you for watching this. Hit the follow button on Twitch, because that helps with things. And if you're watching on YouTube, then that's great. You can follow there as well and see what's coming up in other videos and presentations. Next week, I hope we're going to look at the inline querier and also passing SQL queries to ArcGIS in some way. So if I'm trying to remember what it is, but that's a rough outline. So yeah, be sure to tune in next week. But yeah, from everyone here today, again, thank you for attending, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, folks. Bye.